So how did I become a priest? Well, I tell you that there were three people who were significant as far as being priests. One was Father Frank Mayone, who was my parish priest as a kid, and he will always be the number one. Then I met a Franciscan priest by the name of Father Sal Panagia, and a third priest, Monsignor Dick Liddy in the seminary. But going back before that, my grandmother was such an important figure in my life. She was a third order Franciscan, a lay Franciscan, and she was actually buried in the habit of St. Francis. But the whole St. Francis thing comes down to my brother and my father's death. So all of these things come together. So my brother was the Holy One. I mean, he went to Catholic school, I didn't. He was an altar boy, I wasn't. And he went to the seminary for 6 years, 4 years high school, 2 years of college. Yeah, that's true. I had to have some fun first. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. So at this point in my life, I fell in love for the first time. I was a freshman at Stevens Tech. The Vietnam War was going on, and I'm having all sorts of questions about God. I always believed in God, but I didn't quite know what was happening. The very day my father died, which was March the 13th, 1967, it was a Monday. And my brother was in the seminary. What grade you were in?
I was sophomore.
He was sophomore. So I go home after class, and my mother's crying. Now, the night before, I had visited my father, who was at his mother's house, my other grandmother, and he wasn't feeling well. So I left him, and at this point, I wasn't physically afraid of him, although I knew I could run faster than him if I had to. So I go home, and my mother's crying. I said, "Ma, what happened?" She said, "Daddy died." And I made a statement. I said, "Mom, Daddy died a long time ago." So my brother comes home. And here I am. Now, he is the expert on religion. He still is. But anyway, I said to him, I'm asking him questions and stuff. And he said a line, I don't know if the word would be innocuous or innocent, but he said, even atheists venerate St. Francis of Assisi. Atheists. And I was looking for something. We had one book in an engineering school.
That's right.
On St. Francis. It was by Chesterton. And that book changed my life. I read the book, and I went to my parish priest, Father Mayone, who's Father Francis Mayone. So there was a nice connection there. And that started me thinking of the priesthood. Now, I was 18. Now, I almost got engaged, and I was on the dating game.
I was going to say, don't forget that piece. Gabe was on the dating game.
In 1975. I did this as a lark, and there's a couple of nice stories with this. So how did I get on? It's in California. Well, they were spending 3 weeks here in New Jersey.
That's right.
And I went on the practice game, and I knocked it dead, bing, bing, bing. When it started, I was like Jackie Gleason, humming. Now,
and I was in the studio audience looking at him.
Right.
Yeah.
So the girl's name was... not Becky. Anyway, I can't remember. But you can't see her, of course, because there's the wall. So I go up there and I kiss her. And then my mother says, "It's only Italian mother. You wouldn't have liked her. She was top heavy." I said, "Ma, top heavy is good."
That's exactly what
we're
looking for.
Top heavy is good. But anyway, that's exactly. So anyway, she alternated with that, and you're going to see one of your tomatoes. But that's
right. Well, you never know, right? You never know which way it'll go.
Then in God's good time, he had called me. It was time for me to set me apart. So when I was 25, I went to the seminary. But because of my love of St. Francis, I equated being a priest with being a Franciscan. It turned out at that time it just wasn't a good match or mix, because they were emphasizing that you're first and foremost a Franciscan, a friar, a community member. And I said, well, yeah, I want to do that, but I want to be a priest. And if you're asking me what's more important, I got to be a priest. Mm-hmm. And so I went to seminary. I was glad I spent the 2 years there.
Yeah, no question.
It was a great base of spirituality. Mm-hmm. And then after 3 years in the seminary, I was ordained a deacon. I had a great year in Queen of Peace in North Arlington, great priest there. And then I was a parish priest for a year, but because I had a master's at that, actually I had 2 masters, one in theology, a master's in math, the Archbishop sent me back for my doctorate and go to Seton Hall. And I've only had 2 priesthood assignments.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That 1 year, and that's it. But it was all because of him and St. Francis.
Well, the seminary that I went to were a branch of the Franciscans called the Capuchin Franciscans, and there was a parish in Hoboken, St. Anne's Church in Hoboken, which was a Capuchin parish, and there were 2 other Franciscan parishes in Hoboken at the time, another branch of the Franciscans called the Conventuals. But so, interestingly, the St. Anne's Church is the same baptismal font and church where my father was baptized in, that Gabe and I were baptized there. My both children were baptized there. Kelly and I got married in that church, and I have had a long connection with that church because of the Capuchin Franciscan tradition. So even though Gabe spent a couple of years with the Capuchins, he carries within him that Franciscan charism. So he carries it with him all the time. And even though I was in 6 years, 4 years high school, 2 years college, I look back, and I'm 74, and that's high school. It has influenced my formation in ways that I can't even begin to describe. I think how my ideas of fraternity and community are so strong. My ideas of social justice, service to the poor and service to those have less. So a Franciscan charism. And I think that even though Gabe left the Franciscans formally to pursue the priesthood, he remains, I think, a model Franciscan. In fact, this is not disclosing anything private. The cardinal of our archdiocese regards Gabe, a priest of the diocese, as an ordered priest almost as the kind of priest that's more of an ordered priest, a Franciscan. Gabe and I had this conversation yesterday when we went to the probability seminar yesterday. We talk in the car, and we have these conversations every couple of months. We drive down together and talk for 3 hours about things. We're talking about how pivotal the Catholic Church and the Franciscan tradition has been in our lives. I can't tell you how pivotal,